Hey there, everybody. Good evening. This is 𝗬𝗲𝘃𝗶𝗃 of the Body Art Fitness Centers going live with you again this evening. And I am very excited about this particular series that we've been conducting with Dr. Sangeeta Shah, who is right here of the Cesta Healing Center. This is the fourth session of our four-part series. And it has usually been conducted on every consecutive Tuesday. This recording is actually Thursday's recording, which we are posting today on Saturday for reasons I will not bore you with. So if you're interested in the past recordings, you know where to look back in this particular feed. So this series has covered different situations, environments, dynamics, relationships, etc., that very gravely affect us and cost us dearly in terms of our health, our well-being, emotionally, mentally, psychologically, physically, really in every way, and then some. And today we are zeroing in into toxic relationships, especially in the romantic space, and also toxic behaviors at the workplace, both of which is where we tend to spend our maximum waking hours, right? And unfortunately then can end up losing a bit of sleep over it too. So Dr. Sangeeta Shah really needs no introduction. However, for those of you who've kind of sailed in a little bit more recently, let me quickly get you onto the same page. Sangeeta is a theta healing master. She practices a variety of theta healing techniques, past life regression therapy, trained under Dr. Brian Weiss, no less, and hypnobirthing. She has studied integrated healing, radical healing, metaphor therapy, trauma release techniques, that is somatic healing, and emotional freedom technique, that is EFT, and craniosacral therapy. So welcome, Sangeeta, and thank you for doing this with us. It's been very empowering to our viewers. We've had a lot of noise over it. We've had a lot of excitement over it, and some interesting comments and queries that have come in when I think 3 days ago we initially posted about this particular live, which we'll come to during our conversation. But let me start by asking you, what, according to you, is the foundation of a good romantic relationship?
So first of all, Nawaz, thank you for this amazing session and that the entire season that we took. And coming back to the point, and because you already spoke about the toxicity and abusive relationship. So foundation of any relationship, if I have to put it in one single word, would always and always and always be the relationship which is based on love. Now, obviously, for different reasons, people have different perceptions of love and different understanding of love. So how they define love and what they believe that love is for them. Because, so obviously, if there is friendship in a relationship, there is trust, loyalty, understanding, communication. They all are foundation tools for a relationship, but all that comes when you love a person. If you love a person, you understand them. You know how to give them space. You are on that friendly term with them. You are loyal. You believe in them. So in one single word, answer is always love is the foundation of any relationship.
Right. How about twisted love? How about when there is over possessiveness, a sort of an obsession? Something is a bit off, and sometimes the spouse is being told that, oh, you need not work any longer, you stay at home, and you mind the house and you mind the children, and I'll be the bread earner, I'll take care of it. But then it goes into a weird direction further, making sure that they kind of separate you from your family, from your friends, from your support system, maybe in different ways, maybe by, maligning them in some way or the other, accusing them in some way or the other, or just being more needy with regard to the spouse's, time, attention, etc., under the guise of, oh my God, I'm so crazy about you, I'm so in love with you, and I can't do without you, sort of a thing. Because, well, deploying attention-seeking tactics and guilt-tripping, and this energy of you owe me, I've done everything for you, I've given you my life, you owe me, sort of a thing, and is quite prevalent. It's around. Is this healthy? Is this what is this? Is this the greatest love of all, or the greatest manipulation? I don't know. What is this?
So for sure, this is, forget the greatest. It is not love. This is business, because I give you this, you give me that. And I have this thing to sell you. And like when you find the buyer who will buy your manipulation, who are very empathetic towards it. And then obviously, like, you want to sell it. So love is never twisted. Love is always very transparent. Love is always very pure. Love cannot be conditional. So when I say not conditional, I am not saying that you do not define the boundaries or clarity, because when you have boundaries, you do not interfere. You do not tell your spouse that, oh, you don't work, I will take care of you. Then it doesn't become very obsessive. So when people become obsessed by someone, then it's a very need-based. Again, it is like a business. It is not love anymore. So there are times people don't speak that, oh, I love you, but their actions speaks louder than their words. There are people who constantly are very rosy about it, and they say, oh, I love you. Like, you are the only one in my life. But like, are their actions liberating you, or do they cage you? If they are giving you space, if that is something which gives you growth, they think about your peace, they think about your growth, they think about your state of mind, then it is love. Probably they may not even tell you that I love you. But when they are demanding, they are needy, it's not love for sure. And obviously it is manipulation. It is not the love. And if it is not the love, it doesn't fit, but majority of the time, that is what people become victim of, not realizing.
Yeah, so it's really a lot more transactional, in other words, is what you're saying. And I'm also getting from you that you're saying that these sort of personalities, coming up to abuse really, their actions and their words never seem to get onto the same page.
Yeah. Spot on, because if they don't match, it's not love.
Right. So it's the energy of, hijacking a person and making them work for them emotionally, psychologically, in all sorts of ways and forms under the guise of love or a relationship or whatever, which it frankly is not.
They feel like you owe it to them. They feel as if they have bought you over. And every soul is different, every individual is different. They have a different way of enacting, have a different way of leading their life. You cannot dictate. Anywhere there is dictatorship, anywhere there is a lot of demands, it is for sure, it doesn't fall into the category of love. Like even God doesn't become conditional to you. They let you be who you are, and you have not yet become God.
Yeah.
So don't even get to become the God of somebody else.
Right. So this attitude of hijacking a person under whatever guise is just not happy, not happening, not a soulful thing to do. Yeah. I loved one of the comments that came in when we put up this notification for today's live from somebody named Pavan. And he said, and I have to bring it up because it's so important. He said that, well, all too often when people kind of get together in some sort of relationship, they're kind of getting in for all the wrong reasons. Something I don't have that you have. It doesn't have to be a physical or a monetary or a power-based thing or anything like that, but characteristics, traits, etc. You're kind of crutching on somebody else in some way or the other. And he said something to the effect that you really have to have done the work. You really have to be a whole person by yourself before you may choose to have a tie-up or a link-up with another whole person by themselves. So that takes me back to, the old saying that, well, two half-wits don't make a whole wit. So, yeah, that's a recipe for disaster. Thank you for clearing that up.
We actually, we do have soulmate classes and we teach people, and people do come with this problem. And it's always what's lacking in you. That is what you get attracted in the other person. Without you making any effort to make yourself complete or whole. It's an easy way out to say that, oh, you know what, I don't know this, but you have this. So you do that for me. And that doesn't work in a relationship, because that's what we show them, because, to incomplete circle, we draw few lines and tell them that, can you, by joining these dots or lines, make a complete circle out of it, and which you cannot. But when there is a complete circle and another one, then together that part you enhance in a relationship. Very important to work on our own self and make ourselves complete, because that's what you vibrate with, and that's what you probably, before you get hooked, you attract. But if you have your own issues and you are not happy with yourself and you feel incomplete, then the only thing you can attract is incompletion. Nothing else can come back to you.
True. Okay, so what happens when a supposedly good relationship, it's fabulous and it's all roses, etc. When do the roses become guns? When does that turn upon you? And when and how does a relationship become negative and toxic? And how does that look?
So there is a saying that opposites attract each other. And the deeper study about it is that they put it in the term like what we call even suggestibility. People are programmed from their childhood upbringing, how they receive messages in. So ideally, a person in a relationship who operates out of logic will always get attracted to somebody else who is very comfortable with their physical self. Someone, their way of expression of love is very physical, giving a hug, giving a rose, or something. People often, they portray a very different self of them to the other person before they get in a relationship. So according to the studies and the research, till they get yes, till they actually get into that contract, till like what you have decided here that, I want, you are on your best. Very often people say, oh, you were never like that before marriage. You changed after we got married. So it's not about somebody changing, because that's what psychologically happens. And that is where because till then they were in a very defense guard. So they will portray such a different self to themselves, and not that they do it on purpose or knowingly, but that is what psychologically every human being does. Until if they do not realize that both of them might be very different and opposite, but together they are very complete, that is where the relationship starts getting sour, because then their expectations does not match their reality. Then everything is thorn, there are no roses, they're shooting at each other, there are fights, arguments, and all that starts, it becomes abusive.
So in other words, you're saying that people are putting on a false self to really attract the other person get the person in and show them what they think the other person wants to see?
It's a very programming which is in your computer. It's not something what people do it very knowingly. So for example, like forget a relationship, but at a workplace, somebody who doesn't like to talk much, but he is applying for a PR, and they know that public relations, they have to be good. What are they going to portray? They will go and portray as if they are very, very fluent, and they are like, hi, how are you? What is this? But within themselves, they don't like it. So they do it till they are in front of somebody's eyes. They have to please, they have to get that job. And then they are at work. So afterwards, they will be like who they are. Similarly, in a relationship, that's what people do. It's a very deep study. It takes almost 4 to 5 hours when we explain this topic in the class to people, that, how people portray very differently unknowingly. I'm not saying they do it knowingly, but they do it very much unknowingly. And that's why they are unhappy, because everybody feels that, oh, I had seen this in you, but now you do not do any of such things.
Yeah. Okay. So are these sort of relationships karmic? Is there a past life kind of an issue here?
There are many relationships which are karmic and connected to the past life, but not all. And even if it is a past life issue, only 10% is what you cannot resolve. 90% can be resolved in your present, because the subconscious mind does not understand the difference between another time and present. For it, whatever happened even 200 years back, it feels like as if it has happened in your present. So what we as a therapist focus is not in the dramas of the past life or the stories or the glamour, but rather what belief of yours made you the victim in that situation, or like why did you victimized somebody else? Again, what belief of yours was there? What was your learning for your soul? What did you learn out of that? And then there are metaphysical tools and techniques like soul fragment retrieval, energetic divorce, or emotional cord cutting, clearing that aura, integrating the learning into them. And once we do that, we do certain downloads, the relationship dynamics actually changes. So even if it is a past life issue, even if it is karmic, karma simply tells you to balance out your debit and credit. And the karma, second thing which it tells you, that your soul went through that experience to learn and evolve out of it. The minute you identify your learning, then you integrate the other person doesn't have anything more to teach you, and it changes.
Yeah. Not to digress too much, but just very briefly, because I'm so curious, that 10% that you can't do anything about, what is that?
So the 10% is that, for example, in one of the lifetime, you killed that person, you murdered that person. Now that energy has to come back to you, right? So everything is connected to emotion. So there are ways, for example, like when you go through that, you want to understand that why did you do that? Probably you did that in that life because you were very angry, you didn't have any control, you were a very egoistic person, you were missing grounding, or probably you were the victim and you never learned to believe in your own self. You put the other person into a pedestal very high. You never learned to speak for yourself. So now in this lifetime, the same person comes. But the minute you identify your learning and you can release yourself and that person from that karmic obligation to teach each other that lesson of life. And the minute you do that, probably that person moves out of your life and you do not need to learn it. Or if that was something, that you had slept a person, this lifetime, you just need to finish the experience. What may happen is you may not get a slap through a person who is very close to you, but you may are walking in a crowd and somebody by mistake punches you, or a small child does something. Here you are not angry, you are not generating more karmas. So honestly, the 10% also, if you take a professional help, it really can help you to come out of it very smoothly. Because everything is a learning. You are not your experience.
Yeah.
It's simply there to teach you and nothing else. So 10% can be resolved.
Yes. But coming back to our main topic of relationships and abuse and here and now, some abusers do not want to change because the abuse works very well for them. For example, like narcissism, 10% of the world's population, narcissists. That's 1 in every 10 people we meet. Gosh, for all the times in the past that we've all encountered people and said, oh, what an idiot he was, or what a toxic person that was, or he's just a bit of an ass, or whatever it is, and kind of we cut off and moved on. We didn't realize that actually there was probably a whole lot more to that. We just didn't give it any more energy, and that was probably good for the time. But hey, good people don't go around doing stuff like that. Anyway, okay, it's a big, big red flag. And so when it comes to these sort of habitual abusers of any sort, whether it's a narcissist or otherwise, what do you think? Probably you won't be able to, I'm not sure you can answer this question. Maybe it's a strange question, but I'm kind of thinking on a timeline where there is no timeline. We all need to do the work, right? What do you really think may happen to the soul of this sort of habitual abuser when they move on from planet Earth? Do they somehow have a chance at a better future? Do they somehow roll over anew or kind of turn over a new leaf or in some fashion? Or is the abuse something they're forever stuck with? It's ingrained in them. What's the future for them?
So whether we call psychopath, sociopath, narcissism, bipolar disorder, multiple personality disorder, all of them, as per medical understanding, is some sort of a chemical imbalance, right? And then they have different characteristics that they portray. Now, nobody is born a bipolar or born in a particular way. And at a soul level, every soul vibrates with, the element of the soul is always joy, and the element of the soul is always light. So what happens is that their early childhood years programs them into making them who they become. Now, anything and everything in life can change if at a soul level that individual has learned their lesson and have invoked the body of knowledge or the body of willpower to bring that change. But if they remain in their ego or ignorance, and they think, because as we all know, like, majority of them feel they are always right. What they say, they always feel they are right, nobody understands them. Then they want to prove constantly, so they are constantly in a very defensive mode, and that becomes the biggest hurdle. They feel they don't need any help, and in India it is still a taboo. Majority do not even want to go and seek for help. They don't want to go to a counselor. They don't want to take any medicine to bring that chemical imbalance back. So at a soul level, the law of the universe is very simple. What you give, you have to take it back. If they continue living in the same, obviously at a soul level, they have to experience somebody else being very dominating, manipulative to them. And that is what life after life they can attract. But probably, if they realize it at one point, because we all know, like even in narcissism, like they connect to the people who are very empathetic. And by any chance, if they choose to change, then love is the energy which can shift any reality. And every soul has the right and they deserve to be in the light and to experience energy of love. Then obviously even they can also get it. Probably they are willing to change, willing to connect to the divinity within themselves, willing to let go of the ego, willing to make that shift.
So that may happen maybe only on a soul level, right? Because as we know it, narcissists, for instance, do not change. It's not a chemical thing with them. There is a genetic disposition which may or may not lead to narcissism, but with an uncontrolled environment, there is a chance that it could, whereas others could turn into this love energy and very empathic people. And of course, a narcissist is never going to even admit that they are one, right? That's the core of it.
It will happen at a physical level first, and from physical to a soul level, not the other way around. That at a soul level they change, and then at a physical level, like at a physical level, if they choose to change, and like even in history, there are we have we speak about 𝗬𝗵𝘃𝗿, who used to really enrage and anger and used to kill people, but then he became a sage and a monk. So we really do not know that. But there is always a possibility that that anyone can change. Whether they choose to change or not is nobody can talk about it, and nobody knows it.
Yeah, and how much of a facade that is, and how genuine that is, and because a lot of narcissists like to think that they're good people and like to wear that facade to fool others and to get more victims in. So that's quite commonly known also.
Yeah, they always think they are very good. Others don't understand. They are getting abused. They always feel they are there's a huge manipulation there.
Yes, there are very many manipulations there, but yeah, we'll come to that later. And of course, when it comes to other personality types, etc., borderlines and etc. also. But anyway, let's stick with the subject right now. Abusers and also victims alike, I find often deepen the bonds of their abuse by using tags such as soulmates and twin souls. And why is this?
So people like to speak that, oh, they are soulmates. And if you have to define the soulmates, these are just the people who have been traveling together through different lifetimes. So like if you in your journey have been there with someone, and if you meet them after a long time, there is an instant connection, instant recognition. You know them from some other lifetime. But that does not mean that they are very compatible to each other. And when they disguise everything in the name of soulmate or in the name of twin flame, it sounds better, it makes them feel good. They want to convince the other person that we have been soulmates, we have been twin flames, and that's why there is such a huge karmic connection. There is so much of attraction that you are the only one, because then that itself also at one level is a manipulation, because in your journey you do not have just one soulmate, there are many of them.
20, 25 in a lifetime easily.
And your soulmate can make you walk on fire also. So probably only people who do not know that your soulmate can make you walk on fire will use these terms to disguise, and they will say like, you know what, I think we are soulmates. We are there for each other.
Yeah, I find it a very wolf in sheep's clothing sort of an attitude where you want to lock in the victim, and basically it's a manipulation. You ain't going anywhere. You can't. Sort of a thing. Yeah. So a big red flag there. Yeah. So who are soulmates? Where are they? Where are they? Are they around? Do you go looking for them? Do they go looking for you? What's the story there? And yes, there are many, many of them, right? It's never the one.
No, there are many of them. And as you said, like, each one may have around 20 soulmates also, like different size, different shapes, different gender.
Yeah.
And I mean, more than the soulmates, there are times even your soul families, because you have lived many lifetimes. So like you have chosen those same people as your family for many lifetimes. So when you meet a person from your soul family, even when you see them, you immediately feel that attraction. You feel there is some sort of a connection which is there, from which you can't express. But unfortunately, like if two people from the soul family choose to get married, it's like brother and sister getting into the marriage, and then that chemistry between them, that just will fizzle out there. And for the soulmates, like, more than whether a person is your soulmate or not, what one requires to understand is that part, that what qualities do you have, what qualities you have, you can offer it to your partner, and your partner will also give you only those qualities back. So how compatible you are. And never ever ask for a perfect partner, because it may become too much for you. Because then every day they might be telling you what you should do, what you should not do, what should you wear, whether how you're looking, whether you should eat that, whether you shouldn't do that, you cannot work. And going back to our first, the second question of, you do not need to work, you can't remain with your family. So just choose to have a relationship of a soulmate which is based more on the qualities that you would like to attract. And before you want to attract, make sure that you possess them.
Right. Very important. Yeah. Thank you. So when you are in a abusive sort of a relationship, is it possible on any level to convert this sort of relationship into a compatible soulmate relationship, or not? It's just an abusive relationship. Get out.
No, everything is possible to convert, but it's an investment. You need to invest, because 90% or probably more than 90% couple you will find who will have complaints towards each other. And probably when you find the people who are very comfortable, who are very respectful, who are loving to each other, it's not that, from beginning everything was perfect, but once you choose to be in that relationship, you are committed, you invest your time to make it work for you. So like for everyone, for all the viewers, like always understand one thing, nothing is perfect in life. Neither me nor you, like nobody is perfect. We require to invest our time and energy into relationship to make it the way we want it to be. So whatever are the relationship, the more you will work on yourself, the more your energies get transformed. Your relationships will also get transformed. And the relationship can change, and beautifully, like we have witnessed number of clients coming to us where they say that my family can't believe I am the same person. I can't believe I am the same person, and it changes.
I am confused about whether abuse in a relationship necessarily means that could be a narcissist or somebody with bipolar or a sociopathic personality or whatever, schizo or whatever, or abuse can just be standalone on its own. It's just an abusive relationship without there being a personality issue of any sort.
Abuse can be both the ways. Either they have any of those trends, or abuse can be standalone and it's their personality, because many people do not even realize that even verbal abuse is also abuse, and it impacts people. Emotional abuse breaks down people. Sexual abuse, like there are like many different kinds of abuses which goes on happening. It's not even physical abuse. And in any close relationship, whenever there is an intimacy, so in a physical, close, intimate relationship, by default, there is a lot of energy transaction which happens, and there is a lot of DNA which gets exchanged. So what personality they have, by default, you also receive that. You cannot control or stop it. So abuse can be without them falling into any of those categories, or just a standalone.
Okay, I got it. Yeah, thank you for clearing that up. Okay, so let's touch upon relationships. Sorry, before we actually, we can club it together. Relationships at work too can end up being very stressful and abusive, depending on the pecking order or the hierarchy of things in an organization, and the kind of power play, the politics of it in a dog eat dog kind of a world. We do know that there can be a lot of abuse of various sorts. So how can one best handle themselves?
So we all know, because in the workplace, we often hear these stories of there's a lot of politics happening there, and there's a lot of authority and dominance and everything. And whether it is at a workplace, whether it is at your home front, people need to realize that your problem is not with a particular individual. Your problem is with what behavior they are doing with you. So for example, you have a problem with your boss, and the boss is being very rude to you, and they do not respect you, they are not respectful to you, or so then, which means that your problem is with authority, because boss is authority. So if you consider your spouse as an authority, you will have problem there as well. And the answer to all the situation is always and always one. Work on yourself and see where are you? For example, if authority is an issue, where are you not accepting the authority that you hold on to? Or where are you being or portraying that authoritative state to somebody else? So probably you are doing it to somebody else, and it comes back to you from the work front. And it is very beautiful, because just a small one incident which comes into my mind is one client came to me and he used to work like a donkey, like, very hardworking person in the same organization. And he just came and said that, I work so hard, but I never get promotion. And everybody else who even came after me, and they do not even deserve that, but they do get. And my boss always says, next time, next time. And after doing session, using the B technique or theta, we came to like that, why do you still remain in that? If you are confident enough that, I will do something good out of my life, why do you have to remain in that organization? And somewhere after the downloads and all, he was very confident. He actually went back and he refused to work there. And the organization had a policy that only once in a year the promotions will happen. And that time had gone. They not only promoted him, and out of their policies and the rules, they in fact gave him double promotion. And this guy, even after that 6 months, he left that job and got another job at even still double the price. So it's all about the game, what you believe in yourself, and it changes things beautifully.
Yeah, dude. Well, that takes a lot of guts and courage in a world where most people don't have a job these days to actually take the chance to do that. And I'm glad it worked out for him. But that statistically, that is not most people's luck. And most people very often have to deal with superiors that are habitual abusers, that have the reputation of being habitual abusers. And while I get that, depending on the energy you give off, the other person is also going to respond to you accordingly. That's kind of half the story, right? The other half of the story still is, what's happening up there?
Everyone, who has come and who has allowed that change, it has worked out for them. So yeah, probably majority are not aware that you are your own limiting beliefs. What you believe in, that's what you get in. And there are tools and techniques to help you out. So probably they are not aware. So they remain in that drama for their entire life. And either being jobless or my work is not happening, or no promotion is not happening, or at the business front, business is doing loss, like everything.
Right. Thank you. There's also an element of we, on some level, even the best of us, are different people with different people too, right? So it doesn't have to be a negative person. It can be an empath. It can be a very good, kindly person. It can be whoever. But we do respond to different people differently, right? I'm talking to you a certain way. I'm not going to be talking to the driver, the panwala, or to my husband, or to, Prime Minister in exactly the same fashion. Naturally, the speak is going to be, the demeanor is going to be different. And I suppose that has its obviously very powerful energy, which also has a big role to play.
Yeah, but what happens, people always remain who they are. So there are people who are very, very mindful of what they speak, because they truly believe that every individual, every human being deserves respect.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
I'm
not saying this from an abusive point of view. I'm saying this from, like I said, even the best of us. Yes.
Yeah, I'm coming to that point. So like, they will always make sure that they're very kind to even their panwala and, the person who is working for them. But at the same time, nonetheless, what point you raised is very correct, because with an outsider, you are always on a defense. You want to show yourself best. Like, as simple as forget your behavior. Like somebody comes to your house, you want to keep your house very clean and you want to make 10 items to serve them. But probably when you are alone and like, you're not bothered much about it. You are like, it's okay. So people are different with others, and people are different with themselves. And very interestingly, like there is a scientific research called Genesis by Observation, where scientists made this research work of the two-slit experiment. when they passed water and they passed light, and they wanted to see how particles react. And then they realized when particles were reacting in a different way, they put a camera. And the particles chose to react differently when the camera was there. So imagine, like, if the particles choose to react differently, what we human beings do, we choose to remain, to act differently when somebody is observing us. And
Sorry, you were saying the particles put on a show? How?
yeah. It's like it's there on Google, and because it was when like I was teaching first class, and I had somebody from who was a pharmacist, helping with me. I mean, and that girl found that video, and we showed it to people that if particles can choose to act differently, obviously, like when we work on you, like your atomic structure chooses to act differently. So it's a
Wow.
beautiful video. Probably, like as in when I get the link, I'll send it to you.
Please do. I wonder if that would be very interesting to kind of dissect and think through. So do you think anything that a good boss can do, being at the top of the chain, being at the top of the pyramid? Do you think anything a good boss can do to make things better for people under them in terms of, yes, interpersonal relationships and behaviors, etc.?
100%, because it is the boss who is designing, and they have the vision of what they want in their company, what sort of rules are being decided, and what are the policies, how they talk to them. That entire culture is being decided by the boss. So it makes a lot of difference. And like, in fact, I think after COVID, a lot of banks and all have started doing the programs of positive thinking. And it becomes compulsory for every person whom they employ, so that that culture remains and people are very, very positive. So now I think everybody is taking care of that. A lot of people have started doing that.
Yeah. Well, positivity is something everybody is in need of these days, even the most positive of people, which kind of makes me wonder what happens to the most negative of people from earlier times. People say now, firstly, though, you don't want to meet people because of what the situation is. And secondly, even if you do, you want to only meet people who are worth it. No longer are you willing to put up with the rubbish people that perhaps you kind of, put up with previously, like whatever the issue is. So with them being more and more rejected, I wonder what their already negative state is further transcending, spiraling downward fast into. But that's, well, I suppose their issue to sort. Tell me, what is it that one can do? Any tips that you have for people to be able to avoid toxic people, toxic relationships? Maybe how do you spot the early signs, the flags, and kind of stay disengaged early or stay away very early?
Yeah, I think the only tip for everyone is that every relationship begins with yourself. So invest time into making your relationship strong with yourself. If you love yourself, if you accept yourself for who you are, what you are, how you are, the number one, it reduces the chances of attracting negative people, abusive people, because you operate with self-belief, self-dignity, self-confidence. Another thing is, like, even then by chance, like as we said, past life or karmic, you get into it. Because everybody has one part which probably is unresolved, or probably, that's your point of vulnerability. And you still get into that entire drama. Then, like the minute you realize that, this is what is making you unhappy, like you need to ask yourself this question: why are you still choosing to be in this relationship? What is your biggest fear of moving on from this relationship? And the minute you start developing clarity The courage, that bravery, that confidence automatically comes to move on from that relationship. And people are ready to move on.
I guess what I'm asking you is something a little bit different. What I'm asking is that in a lot of these sort of abusive relationships, it's not straight up and clear. It is not the very obvious person who's obnoxious, who's abusive, etc. It's all under the hood. It's all undercover. It's all done in secret. It is there's a lot of pathological lying. There is a lot of this victimhood. Oh, bichara, bichari me, and the whole world hates me, and this one's out to get me, and that one's out to stab me, and my parent did that to me, and so on and so forth. Perpetual victimhood, probably to try and avoid accountability of different sorts. And then there's a lot of and that also can be a lie to get a lot of attention. And you often find that, my God, those were not even true. Whatever your issues were, whatever you said your health issues were actually not even true. And they come in such a careful demeanor, they're soft-spoken and they're gentle and they're seemingly kind, and they operate with this facade, and you kind of questioning yourself and wondering whether you're all there. Did you get it right? Did you get it wrong? There's strange stuff going on. There's deep envy, which you can see, which usually is supposed to be masked, right? I mean, you feel jealous or envious. It's not something that's supposed to be there on display, and long-held grudges, and then there are many other things, a lot of latent anger and mind games and all sorts of machinations. I'm talking about these sort of situations really when I ask this question.
Yeah. So what happens, Nawaz, here is that people get sucked into this energy when they do not draw boundaries. Because you are not there to save every life. And even when people say that, oh, this is what happened in my childhood, that is what happened, people did this to me. But it is about their learning, it is about their life. You cannot live somebody else's life. So when you have your boundaries very well defined, then there is a lesser chance of you getting sucked into that. But when you start believing that, oh, I know it all, and I am going to save God, I am going to save you, I am going to do that for you, then God only can save you, because then you get sucked into that energy, and you really do not know then that you are in so much of influence of it that you at some point forget who you are. And then you do not know how to come out of that situation.
Right.
So, I think, the boundaries have to be very well defined. And it's okay for all of you who may have got into it to start defining your boundaries now. Because it's not worth getting into such relationship or remaining into that relationship. It's just
when you're in and you find out, when you're knee deep, you find out that many years later under the then there are the tactics to keep you from not defining boundaries, not being able to cut away. There are tactics of, I'm in depression and I'm suicidal and I will do this and you are going to be responsible for that. And
how does that impact
my life, and what have you done back for me in return? And there's a lot that goes on there in abuse.
Yeah, but then yeah, that's fine. But you are the only one who can help yourself out to come out of the depression. And you cannot do that. So because in fact you are in depression, I want to be out of this relationship. That, you work that out. So yeah. I think, the boundaries and whether you want a need-based relationship, are you greedy of something? The minute you step out of that, then I think you can be impervious to all that toxicity or the negativity. Otherwise, it will go on impacting you and you go on buying that. They will go on selling it and you go on buying it.
Yes. Yeah, well said. Thank you. It's time we closed out. It's been a nice long one, and before we get cut off, we should close out. I think this is still the tip of the iceberg, and a lot more in there. But you guys, Sangeeta has some very valuable, informative downloads on this subject. This is just scratching the surface. So if you are interested in doing a deep dive, and I know that there are many sufferers out there, I know that you're looking for a lot of help and information, and hey, there is a lot out there, by the way, on the net. There are people who've been very brave enough to come out there, start their own channels, put out very valuable information and advice, and it's shocking as to what a large community that is. It makes you realize how huge abuse is. And when they get together and these shared experiences really help people out. I mean, the comments very often, are just as valuable as the content that is put out by somebody. So yes, please look into it. It is more than soul saving. There's really no thanking these people back appropriately on any level. It's just overwhelming. But Sangeeta, please tell us how it is that people can get a hold of your downloads, connect with you. This is obviously going to be put up on our handles, Instagram, Facebook, etc., and perhaps YouTube. Sangeeta's links, etc., all there. But do tell us just about these downloads, which are helpful.
Yeah, so for everyone, that no matter how much ever you understand, the real change happens when you experience this theta healing downloads, because they actually open up the new neural paths for you and help you. So that's the real shift. And so every day, like from Monday to Friday morning, 9 o'clock, we are live on YouTube and Facebook of Cesta Healing. 𝗬𝗓𝗲𝗄𝗧𝗵𝗂𝗍𝗔. You want our Zoom link, you can call up our office number and can get it, because we actually sit in meditation, channelize. We take your questions. We are there. We are doing a lot of meditations, downloads, this B technique to help people out. And they can go to the YouTube as well to listen to whatever they have missed out. Because there have been weeks of relationship abuses where we have guided them with meditations and downloads and all. So it would be a good idea that, if they actually go through that, we have taken in financial blogs, right? Like a lot of different variety of topics.
Right. Yeah, thank you for that. And you guys, many of us, most of us have had childhood-related issues, which always reflect back into our adult relationships, even into these sort of toxic romantic relationships, workplace relationships, etc., which we're talking about even here and now. We did speak about it in one of our initial lives. And I just want to close out by thanking Sangeeta, and thank you for your time, for everything that you put into this. It's been hugely valuable. And also by saying that, guys, where do we really live? We don't live in the world. We don't live in this, wherever you are right now, environment. We just really don't. We end up living only in our head space and our heart space. And if that is not a good place to be in, that's not a happy place to be in, I really got to question the rest of it. What's the whole point, right? You miss the forest for the trees. And that takes work. You can't just press the pause button and think that, okay, after a few years, it's going to go away. It doesn't. When you get back, you're triggered again, same thing. It's just unpaused and you're back to where you started. So it really needs for us to do the work. So let's get to it. You have your specialist for everything, right? You have a cardiac problem, you have a kidney problem, you have a issue with the brain, you have a specialist, a nephrologist, and a cardiologist, and so on and so forth, for any and everything. But hey, our master computer needs a little care and mindfulness really from all of us. So on that note, thank you so much for it all, Sangeeta.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting, and it was truly a pleasure to be here.
It was fabulous.
Awesome.
Thank you. We'll be back connecting with you in one way or another soon. All the
Sure.
best. Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.